And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, is a man who never bucks at a good time. He is. How you doing?
Doing good, Kieran. You can admit it. You were scared. You were a little scared that the Tigers were going to drop two in a row and get old St. Louis. Not the case. Nice rally there Tuesday night. Zach McKinstry, Riley Greene, two guys who have come up big for the Tigers all year. McKinstry had been slumping a little bit, cooled off in kind of a big way. Actually, on the road, had not been very good all season. But he comes through. Riley Greene keeps driving in runs. And the bullpen, right when everyone's starting to freak out about the bullpen, Tommy Kahnle closed the door in the ninth. We're going to have ourselves a nice little rubber match on Wednesday.
I don't know about nice, but it will be a rubber match. Well, like we joke about like trying to plan how we're gonna talk about this and what kind of what will be like the tone of the podcast immediately after these games, especially weeknight games, especially games that we only got two games to talk about since we last fired up recording. But like Monday is a crumple it up and just throw it away and forget about it type day. And Carpenter leads off Tuesday with a home run, and then you get Riley Greene with a home run, and so you're like, all right, well, and it's Kubal's on the mound, so we got the injury element, Rogers behind the plate. There's like all these kind of things that you're like, all right, it's like reinforcements, any old claims of the Tigers' downfall are exaggerated, and then it's just not a lot of offense, and Skubal kind of doesn't finish an outing that dictated what we saw the majority of the time. The Bach thing, AJ said pretty defiantly, I would say post game, is like, yeah, I don't know what
I saw it. He balked. He balked. The front leg twitched, the knee came up. Like, it sucks, maybe he's a little nitpicky. I don't think the runner was going or thrown off, but I thought it was fair enough to call the balk.
There you go. Instant analysis from Cody Stavenhagen. But it's like all these, it's like, what was it, the first of his career? Like all these like little things. Carpenter not going after a fly ball for reasons that I assume have to do with lighting, but I have no idea. Sweeney, it didn't matter at the time, but Sweeney just coming up short on going back for a pop-up. And, the latter, or the former, I should say, of what I said led to a Nolan Arenado 2-run home run. And then after that, you start, it's a little bit teeth clenching time, and you're just kind of like, oh boy. And then Holton comes on. We'll talk about Holton later. Holton comes on, gives up a run, and rather quickly, I might add, and you're just kind of like, well, damn. Like, all this kind of momentum killed. But credit to the Tigers. McKinstry gets on there in the ninth. Hannafy gets out of the jam. I'm not going to recap every little thing, but McKinstry gets on there in the ninth, and then Riley Greene, after fouling the ball off his leg, finds another breaking ball that doesn't break enough. Just, you do that to Riley Greene, it's usually not going to end up well for you. Sends it into the corner. McKinstry read it. No one's talking about this, at least I didn't see on X. McKinstry read that perfectly. Like I think he might have looked at it for half a second, and then he was gone. Like he no hesitation. Helmet comes off. And he scored without any sort of play there. And then
Kieran, we talk about the whole aggressive base running being in the Tigers' DNA thing. Like, here's how much I've seen it. Here's how much I believe it now. That ball left Riley Greene's bat, and I don't think it had even hit the ground yet. And I said Tigers lead.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Zach McKinstry's fast. Joey Core is going to send him. That ball left Riley Greene's bat, and I was like, that'll do it.
No, that I said the same thing. I was like, there's your lead. And I honestly almost chuckled a little bit because Dan's calling it live, and he's like, Cora's waving around McKinstry, and I almost thought like it really didn't even need to be that dramatic. I don't know. I don't know. McKinstry needed a wave. I think he was just gonna go. I think he just knew that that was gonna be a relatively easy run scored in that situation, and he let out a little ha.
He did. He was hyped.
The cameras caught, and so that was really cool. By the way, McKinstry, number one guy in baseball when it comes to running upright. I kind of feel like he's a Coke bottle on top of the head type runner. Doesn't really look. He's really straight. He's really straight. Like it's fun to watch. So, just a little observation there. And so yeah, they come out, they do their thing, overcome again, not they overcome bad defense at times, overcome not the sharpest pitching situationally, and then you have your superstar, your all-star, the guy that we said like as things go, he should be in the MVP conversation. Come up huge, 3 for 4, triple short of the cycle for Riley Greene with 4 ribbies. By the way, Riley Greene, 25 ribbies in the last 24 games. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Some of the new kind of stance and swing metrics that just came out on StatCast are really interesting. Some of you guys might have heard Riley Greene has the steepest swing in Major League Baseball out of any hitter. Hard to decide whether you like that or not because we know the Riley Greene who has struggled hitting too many ground balls. The fact that he's got quite the uppercut, I mean, he kind of always has, though, and it was still a swing that was producing ground balls and early on in his career, a low average launch angle. I guess it's possible to uppercut and still roll over, right? But when we see Riley Greene go through the ruts, he's swinging and missing a lot. It does make me wonder, like, look, I'm all for hitting in the air. You're not going to hear old school out of me, try to hit a line drive to no, hit the ball in the air, pull it in the air. Let's go. That's how the game is played. That's how you win games. That's how you score runs. Doesn't mean there aren't times you got to move a guy over, but like, I do wonder if there is room for Riley to cut down on that, maybe a little bit, because we know when he can get in trouble. And we also know when he's right, he's one of the absolute best hitters in Major League Baseball. We're seeing it, like you said, 24 RBI or 25 RBI in 24 games. He's been powering this lineup for the last month or so and came through again big time here in this one.
Yeah, and had another highlight catch on Monday. When I not to really talk about a lot about Monday, but did have himself a highlight there on Monday as well. So yeah, Riley Greene continues to be like he's the guy that I no longer have to say the things I've had to say the past 3 years. Like, look for Riley Greene, look for no. If you're not seeing Riley Greene, then you're just not paying attention to baseball. And it actually kind of feels good to see him get to that like
Hey,
level a little bit.
he's quickly become a savvy veteran, though. Did you see his post game interview? Have you seen
Yes,
any of his post game interviews? Whew,
nothing.
they're getting pretty dull, man. He's got all the cliches mastered, and I know Riley. I know he's got more personality than that. I keep pushing for Riley to be branding himself a little bit better, or for his agency or the Tigers to help him brand himself a little bit better. Come on, man, give us something. Come on.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna hear any pushback from me on that. So, you know, things are now feeling good. Obviously, Monday not so much. But the reason why this week, you're playing a good Cardinals team that's hot, and whether they can sustain it or not, their version of the S word, you'll have to go to Cardinal territory to see what's going on over there. However,
Hey, it's going to ruin all my trade deadline talk. The push to get Ryan Helsley. It's not going to be possible if the Cardinals are atop that division.
and we don't have to do the Nolan conversation as of right now, even though, had himself a nice home run today. The big thing is that this week, the good vibes coming into the week were saved by a couple former number 1 overall picks. And that brings us to a new segment brought to you by Arena Club. Arena Club, if you guys have been listening to us, specializes in digital trading and keepsaking of trading cards. And we got ourselves looking at a Jackson Jobe Bowman draft card, blue wave reflector, mint 9. And Jackson Jobe had himself a nice little day on Sunday. I know we talked about how he was saved a little bit by Akil Baddoo in that first inning, but he still finishes with six innings, 5 Ks. Gives up a couple runs there, and Spencer Torkelson was responsible for those RBIs for the Tigers. So a couple high picks, a couple guys that are featured here on these Arena Clubs. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see some of the offerings from Arena Club. But I got to say, I like the pitcher hitter dynamic here, Cody, because what do you say about Jackson Jobe? It is kind of like simple. He's a young guy getting better. Here's what I say. He might be your favorite Tigers hitter, favorite pitcher, because this guy, all he does is get huge amounts of run support and gets lots of extended rest on the pine. That's contributed to a really impressive win-loss record for one Jackson Jobe. So what can we say about Jackson Jobe, who, by the way, now is kind of third in that hierarchy of at least until the weekend potentially, and we'll talk about that a little bit more because you're down Reese Olson, you're down Casey Mize. Now it's the Scooble Flaherty and Jackson Jobe show. So the Jackson Jobe show featured prominently as well on Arena Club. That's arenaclub.com/foul. So what can we talk about, Cody, with Jackson Jobe?
I just keep saying it. You're watching this kid learn and grow in real time, and there are instances where you think maybe he hasn't been all that sharp. The ERA is 4.12. Yeah, like maybe you could be getting that out of another pitcher, but man, the flashes are all there. Yeah, you would like to see more whiffs. You would like to see the fastball get by guys. You would like to see him escape two strike counts more often. One thing I've just noticed recently, we know Jackson Jobe has a very good changeup. I think that pitch has started to kind of show itself a little bit more over his past couple starts. He's using it 15.3% of the time. This is part of a larger trend, Kieran, with Tigers pitchers. The Tigers use changeups more than any team in baseball. Jackson Jobe, he has kind of that vert fastball. He has a powerful slider, but he's able to attack guys up in the zone. He's able to attack guys down in the zone too. And I was looking pretty deep into some pitch data. The Tigers, I've heard a couple opposing managers talk about this. The Tigers are kind of bringing back the art of pitching low in the strike zone. They are throwing more pitches at the bottom rail or below than any team in the American League, third most in baseball. And look at some of the company they're in: Braves, Dodgers. I think Padres are kind of in that list, Yankees. There's some smart teams that seem to be reverting back to pitching low in the strike zone. Low changeups. Low changeups last year produced, I think, like a 167 batting average amongst major league hitters. So I think this is all data driven, and guys like Riley Greene with their steep swings saying, hey, let's go back to beating them down in the zone. And I think that's becoming a little bit of an asset for Jackson Jobe. Just something to keep an eye on with both Jobe and the Tigers staff as a whole.
Another thing to keep an eye on, Jobe, especially as you're going to Arena Club to look at his cards, is that he's still young enough. We talked about Riley Greene, getting to the cliche stuff. I don't know how Jackson Jobe is as an interviewee, I should say. But on the field, when Badu made that play against the wall, they showed Jackson Jobe, and he said something to the effect of, "Oh, S," which most pitchers, they exclaim, but normally they don't. Normally they keep it's nonverbal. It's like they express with their eyes or whatever. Jackson Jobe is still new enough that he's reacting like a fan is whenever these plays happen. So I appreciate that out of the young right-hander. So as a reminder, use code FOUL to receive 20% off at arenaclub.com/foul, your first slap pack or card purchase. That's arenaclub.com/foul.
FT fam, let's talk about the HOF app. If you're into parlays, but sometimes you're missing the mark more than you would like to, can I introduce you to some serious analytics on an app that is easy to read and comprehend? And I'm sitting next to a man who knows how to place a parlay.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is breaking down a parlay with this Hall of Fame app. There's the situations that you'll find easier to do. It's very helpful and understanding. And if you like, gambling, sometimes this is really good to know. So get on there, get on that Hall of Fame app and check it out.
Yeah, this is info that will help you, okay? With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 five-star reviews, safe to say that HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. For a limited time only, FT listeners can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month when they use code FOUL at checkout. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android. Enter code FOUL and you're all set.
All right, coming back here. Had there not been such a roller coaster of a game, we probably would have led with this. But the Tigers, part of the good vibes coming into today was some of the injury updates. Now, Parker Meadows is going to start his rehab stint in Toledo. His stats are, there are no stats because there was rain, and so therefore the game did not occur, but that's a really good sign. Obviously, Veerling's there. Jake Rogers is back, as we mentioned, so Scooble gets his favorite battery mate back, although the numbers were quite good with Dingler, so we don't want to imply anything otherwise. Also, Alex Cobb, the mysterious Alex Cobb. Technically, the Tigers have yet to have a second player play for them named Cobb. He has inflammation in his hip, so he's getting treated with shots there. And Reese Olson on the 15-day IL with right ring finger. Wanted to say that correctly. Right ring finger inflammation. So obviously a mix there. That's why there's a bullpen game on Wednesday, Cody. If I could take a victory lap for a second, I did say that the Tigers were one cracked fingernail away from pitching chaos, and it's not a cracked fingernail, but it's pretty close. And so now you're gonna have that bullpen day on Wednesday, and then we'll see what happens with Casey Mize. It seems like he's trending toward potentially coming back, but obviously it's a hamstring. You never know.
Yeah, sounds like Casey Mize can be back as soon as this weekend, in which case the Tigers might dodge having their pitching depth really tested if Mize and Olsen were both kind of on the IL at the same time. They technically are on the IL at the same time, but you're not necessarily going to miss two starts like this turn through the rotation, I don't think. And the Tigers, as much as the bullpen games can be a little bit stressful, we know they're built in a way to handle it. The injury report on Reese Olson said he got multiple opinions. I thought that was a little strange for finger inflammation. So I'm going to be interested to learn a little bit more about that injury. But I think what the people really want to talk about is Alex Cobb. There's some people up in arms that Alex Cobb has yet to do anything, and he's getting paid $15 million, and being scheduled for a series of injections just doesn't sound like what you want to hear, especially maybe if the Tigers were in a spot where they could have some use for him by this point. Unfortunately, I can't say I'm surprised by this. I think I've hinted at it a little bit, but what I had heard is that Alex Cobb's able to pitch. He's actually throwing the ball quite well. The whole walking thing, the whole having mobility, being able to field his position, let alone walk across the clubhouse, that hasn't been great. The hip's really bothering him, and they have to get that inflammation out before he's going to be able to pitch at the major league level or even start a rehab assignment. I don't know. Like we're into May. In a way, the season's still early. In a way, like that clock's kind of ticking, and you do worry that if that hip's just not right, then what are you going to get out of this 15 million investment? We've seen the guys in that bucket, older pitchers getting that 15 plus million. Max Scherzer been hurt. Charlie Morton has been a disaster. Justin Verlander, it turns out, has been the best of that bunch. So maybe a victory lap for those who would have rather the Tigers sign Justin Verlander rather than Alex Cobb. I don't know. The Tigers have the second best run differential in baseball. They have the best record in the American League. So it's hard to harp too much. But yeah, 25 mil on Kenta Maeda and Alex Cobb. Kind of not a great look. And there's kind of this narrative, Kieran, that the Tigers are so good at pitching, and it's not wrong. And they're so good at identifying pitching. But when you start to list the guy Scott Harris has acquired in free agency, starting with, easy to forget, his first signing, I believe, was Matthew Boyd. That wasn't great. Shelby Miller wasn't necessarily great last year. Flaherty was obviously a great move. Michael Lorenzen worked out quite well. But there have been some misses in free agency too. And if we don't see Alex Cobb soon, he may go down as a miss.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're a Major League Baseball giving Jack Flaherty the market he wanted and in his mind deserved, away from kind of constantly questioning the front office. Because if you didn't
And
have
Jack Flaherty has a 4.4 ERA right now, by the way.
Sure. But you can afford, metaphorically, for Alex Cobb to be out of sight, out of mind. And, it may be May, but not too far away from June, and and these things are going to add up a little bit, especially with the language and the lack of uh I don't want to say transparency because they are transparent, but the whole thing about like his bullpen and like all that stuff, like just weird, That's all, just a little weird, and so it could come decision time here, maybe in the not too distant future. But I did want to say Matt Vierling, he's 9 games into his stint in Toledo. So I wonder if that's, this weekend. There was talk it might be, St. Louis series that's obviously about to wrap, so probably not. But who knows? Something happened tomorrow, and so like you think maybe he's close. Parker, I'm curious how long this will be, because with the nerve thing and like how many game throws are they really going to want to see, like we don't know what these defensive drills he was doing. Obviously the right arm as a lefty, like that's your lead. How much does that play into it? Like I'm just throwing all these things out there. I wonder if this could be a slower process for Parker, but I don't know. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
no, I think Veerling's a pretty good model. They've obviously been pretty conservative with Veerling, and that's taken even a few extra days because they want to see him make the infield throws as well as the outfield throws. I don't think this is going to be 3 to 5 days and Parker's back in the big leagues, but a week, 10 days, if his arm is tested and if he holds up, I would tend to think that would cover it. The good news is you don't have to put him in another position and see him throw from various arm angles and stuff like that. But you obviously have to make sure the arm is right. You obviously can't guarantee game reps. What if no one hits it to him? What if there's not a play at third, a play at home? So I think it'll be a little bit longer than, maybe we're kind of accustomed to, but maybe still shorter than Matt Vierling's rehab cycle.
And not to, speaking of center fielders, not to, not include him, but Wenzel Perez is just continuing through. There was a little bit of a scary moment there over the weekend, but I think he's okay. But, continuing through the rehab process as well, that appears that one will probably take a little bit longer too. So mostly positive injury updates for the Tigers. The most present one, obviously, being Jake Rogers being back, which of course necessitated the move of Tomas Nido, relief pitcher Tomas Nido. His last appearance with the Tigers is is as a position player, pitcher, but a job well done by Tomas. We'll see what happens in the waiver situation, but I imagine he'll probably find himself a home in the major leagues. If not, I'm sure the Tigers would love to have him back. So that's your injury update. We'll see any news changes this weekend. Well, speaking of the bullpen and all that stuff, Cody, kind of a little bit of a mixed bag. Today. Will Vest came in. First of all, you had to use all your horses today. That's probably the number one negative thing with the win is you had to use all your horses. You bring in Hannafy there, but obviously the big ones are Holton, Vest, and Canley. And they pitched low enough that in a pinch, not to be weird, but not in a pinch, like you probably Hinch might be able to bring some of them back, but Vest, I know he got squeezed there, but 18 pitches, 6 strikes. It's obviously not the Vest that we're accustomed to. And Holton gives up the run. So Holton, I kind of been waiting for the right time to bring it up. Now it feels like the right time. In his last 9 games, he's 9.1 innings pitched, 13 hits. He's given up 3 home runs. And in total, that's 7 earned runs for Tyler Holton over, basically a baseball game stretch here for him recently. And if you've been watching and listening to the games, you know that he's not getting first pitch strikes as often as he did before. And that might be kind of the easiest thing to kind of cling to. But what are you seeing, Cody, from Tyler Holton, a guy that, mind you, received an MVP vote last year and was as critical a piece of the pitching chaos as anybody. So what are you seeing? And then when we start doing the C word in terms of concern levels for Mr. Holton?
Yeah, I think it's fair to have some mild concern right now because just all across the board, he hasn't been as sharp. The velocity's not down drastically, and velocity's not really the MO of his game, but four-seam averaged 92 last year. Right now it's averaging 91.4. The cutter's his best pitch. The velo is actually up on his cutter, but the movement profile is a little bit different. It's become more of a vertical pitch. It has more of a, or excuse me, it has less of a vertical drop as he's throwing it harder, but it's also not getting the horizontal movement. So that pitch just hasn't been as good, quite simply. Opponents hit 194 against it last year, and they're hitting 292 against it this year. That's supposed to be his calling card. He's not missing bats with it. Not sure what's causing that, but the cutter's got to get itself dialed back in. That's been an issue. Opponents are hitting him harder. You can go look at the metrics. They pretty much all paint a picture of a guy who's just not been as effective. And then maybe there's simply the game correcting itself a little bit. Tyler Holton over the past two seasons had sustained a ridiculous 207 BABIP. Like, balls in play against him were just turning into outs. And he's a ground ball pitcher. He throws the cutter. He has an arsenal that you're beginning to think, okay, maybe that's not just luck. Maybe there's a skill in that. Maybe the way Tigers use Stuff Plus and pitch modeling, they thought that was more sustainable than conventional Bill James wisdom would lead us to believe, but I don't know. The BABIP against Holton this year, Kieran, 283, a lot closer to kind of that 290-ish to 300 average that we normally view as normal. So he's getting, less favorable luck when ball's in play. The velo's down. The cutter's not moving the same way. It all adds up to that's reason for concern. And then it's like, okay, well, why is his body not moving right? Is there something off physically, or is this just baseball? That's obviously the part we don't know. And I guess that's the part that scares me a little bit because you just hope this is, maybe a quick mechanical tweak away from being fixed rather than there's some larger issue at hand.
Yeah. And one could argue that maybe the larger issue at hand is the lack of the lack of having another option in there that you can kind of give him a little bit of time to work on this. And we talked about last time about, getting a swing and miss guy in the bullpen. It does kind of feel like they could use another high leverage, reliable guy. And we'll see. Those are, not the hardest thing to acquire at the trade deadline. I want to end on a couple anecdotes here that I thought were humorous. But first, a word from our sponsors.
I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it. But I'm glad we have Arena Club now because it's a one-stop shop for everything card-related.
It is. And right now, you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
All right. Well, I mentioned the Jackson Jobe, OS a thing that happened on Sunday, and I will say, I was hoping it would have like a better ending, but in the moment, it was still a fun thing for me to observe. So I wanted to share with everybody when Carpenter doesn't come in on that fly ball, and then Nolan hits that home run. I turned to my wife and I was like, I would bet a month's salary that Scooble's going to get a strikeout here. And then when there was a late batter timeout, I was like, make it 2 months because there is no way that he's certainly not giving up a hit. Like, it's just like, there's just no way. Like, when Scooble gets into that kind of mode where he's like, all right, F the world. Like it wouldn't want to be in the box against that. And that was one of those moments because his reaction to the Carpenter misplay, whatever you want to call it, was sort of like, I think he would probably admit it was a little bit overt than he would want. Like it was like, like he couldn't like believe it. And I don't blame him. This is not a criticism, obviously, but he couldn't believe it. And then obviously, like I said, the home run, a slider that it's too much of the plate there. Nolan's not going to miss that. He's too savvy of a hitter. But the next guy up was 100% going to get a strikeout. So I found that I just wanted to say I put in the call. I don't know if anybody believes me, but I put in the call there. You watch Scooble enough, and you can kind of pick up on his, and he's obviously good enough to come through with this. I'm sure every guy would like to get a strikeout after a home run, but you watch him enough, and you think, it's not gonna be good for this next hitter.
It's not always subtle, Kieran.
Yes, sometimes Scooble kind of lets the emotions fly a little bit. So overall, what a series with the blowout, and then this. It's not really a comeback win, but regain the win. It's kind of like a different version of the whole 27 outs thing, because typically when we say the 27 outs thing, it's like you're down 4-0 in the third inning, and then you come back and win. And this was kind of like the inverse of it. So it was nice to see kind of the stars come out, and then the Tigers make enough plays there. Like one of the instances of AJ, and he said this basically after the game. It was like, like I can't necessarily worry about the bullpen game tomorrow. Like we have to kind of go get this win. So it was pretty fun. Anything else, Cody, before we jet out of here?
No, that's about it. Just out of fairness, sometimes I talk about like my takeaways, just other teams being really bad. The Angels, the Rockies. I think there have been some other teams. I'm very impressed with the St. Louis Cardinals, and this is a team I did not think was going to be good coming into this year. Obviously, they are exceeding expectations. Two teams with birds as their mascots have gone very different directions because the Baltimore Orioles are in free fall, have fired their manager. The Cardinals are exceeding expectations. The Tigers, a lot of people thought would be competitive. They're playing at the top of the league right now. A reminder that, man, this is a crazy game, and it's only May. I'm sure we have some more twists and turns in store, both of the Tigers and across the rest of the league. So just some things to keep into perspective as we get a little deeper into the schedule.
Yes, and I did want to say there, Javi Baez had himself a nice catch there in the ninth inning. And yes, I do have to do a better job with the way that he is playing. Thank you for pointing this out on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran_Steckley, that I am calling him Javier too much. That is not the proper thing to do. He is Javi right now. And, at this rate, he might be Javi the All-Star. Who knows? You can follow us as a whole on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Tiger Territory _ YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, Instagram. Follow us there, like, subscribe, 5-star review. You guys know the routine. We appreciate all of you. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.